After moving into a homeless shelter to avoid Dr. Now and the weight loss program, becoming one of the biggest failures on the show in the process, Dolly Martinez tried everything to escape the consequences of her monstrous eating habit and was crowned the show's most immature star in the process. Her story wasn't straightforward though. After tragedy in the family, multiple boyfriends, and of course, lots of food hindered her progress. Dolly is one of the show's youngest stars ever at just 25 years old. Unable to wash and bathe herself alone, her mother and childhood best friend are responsible for helping her, as she simply cannot manage on her own. To make matters worse, Dolly has a lymphedema mass underneath her thighs, which causes her immense pain.
There's a lot to do. I've had a lymphedema mass under my stomach for 4 years now, so I have to put my leg up on the side of the tub and have Cheyenne reach through there and scrub for me.
Now, if you don't know what lymphedema is, it's essentially a chronic condition which causes swelling on the body's tissues, and Dolly's case is extreme, needing to be cleaned regularly to avoid infection in the area. In a testimony from Dolly's mother, Stacy, the intensity of her situation is revealed.
Physical care that is hard on me as a mother. There's times when I bathe her that I just can't stop crying because she's so miserable, and that hurts me to the core.
The nature of Dolly's condition puts so much stress on her family that they struggle to cope with her, but despite that, Dolly's best friend says she will do whatever she can to help her.
If she needs anything else, I'd go and do it. I just love her like a sister. Me and Noah have known her my whole life, but I feel like I did in my heart. And she's worth it.
It seems unfair that people in Dolly's life need to give her this amount of care for something that she's brought on herself, but it says a lot about how much they care for her. It's not as though Dolly has a medical condition that requires this level of care, but rather that Dolly has eaten herself to this size and shows no signs of slowing down. We see just how much food Dolly consumes to get to this size too, and it's a shocking amount.
I'll just sit here. Okay. Food is more than just my reason for existing. What was that, like 15 eggs? Yeah.
Dolly eats around 15 eggs in one sitting. Now, I have maybe 3 to 4 eggs in my breakfast, but Dolly is eating 5 times that. And I know egg prices in America are expensive. In the UK, eggs are around £3 a dozen. So Dolly would be spending just over £30 every single week on eggs alone. But eggs are a good source of protein, so I suppose it could be worse. Now, although there is a ton of protein in this meal, there's also a ton of fat and calories, which obviously isn't ideal for weight loss. Dolly would have known this if she'd been subscribed to my brand new newsletter, The Fat Loss Kitchen, where every single Friday we're going to be sending you high protein, low carb meals, which are inspired by the advice given to the patients on My 600 Pound Life, except these meals actually taste and look good. It's completely free to sign up, and you'll get an email every Friday with a brand new recipe sent to your inbox with ingredients, instructions, nutritional breakdowns, and more. I see a ton of people in the comment sections of my videos who are on their weight loss journeys, and I truly think that these recipes will help to aid in that journey without being made to feel like you can only eat chicken and broccoli.
I'm tired of fish and chicken, Lisa. I'm sick of it.
A lot of time and effort has went into creating this, and the goal is to help as many people as possible lose weight in a healthy way without worrying about the calories. The link is in the description to sign up. It's completely free, and of course you can unsubscribe at any time. I really appreciate the support recently on the channel, and let's get back into the video.
Food has caused all of the things I hate about my life, but it's the only thing I've ever had to help me feel good.
To understand why Dolly eats this much and why she resorts to food as a coping mechanism, she opens up about her past, and it sheds a light on why she does this. Growing up, Dolly was relentlessly bullied for being the chubby kid, having to drop out of high school because it got so bad. Needing to find a source of income with no education, Dolly tried to find work at a restaurant, but ultimately failed after just a few days, as she couldn't stand more than 20 minutes at a time. And in a restaurant, that's pretty much what you're paid for. Desperate for an office type job so so she could spend the day sitting, Dolly worked for various companies, but got fired because she was unable to keep herself clean, which was due to her weight, and that meant she had very bad BO. Dolly's weight impacted her in more ways than you might assume, especially as she's had such trouble keeping a normal job. But where did all this come from? Why does Dolly have such an obsession with food? Like many other stars of the show, outside of her bullying, Dolly has a lot of trauma. Losing her dad to suicide at such a young age devastated Dolly, and she found solace in eating. As his coping mechanism continued, Dolly weighed over 400 pounds at just 21 years old. Without a job and nowhere to live, Dolly was pretty much homeless. Luckily for her, she met her then husband Ricky, who was also in a very similar situation to Dolly, with no job and nowhere to live. Moving in with Ricky and his parents, Dolly thought things would get better, and getting pregnant with her baby daughter, she was excited to bring up a child. But this was all too good to be true for Dolly, as Ricky quickly became abusive, forcing her to leave him. To make matters worse, just 6 days after giving birth to her baby girl, Child Protective Services took custody away from Dolly and placed the baby under the care of her mother. This was solely due to the fact that Dolly and Ricky were completely incompetent in looking after their own baby.
Giving birth to my sweet baby daughter was the best day of my life. But there were complications because of my weight and because of all my mental health issues. My mom ended up getting custody of Trinity, which turned out to be a blessing. Ricky was being abusive and I was really sick, and I told my mom I can't handle this anymore. And so my mom took me to the hospital, and I was there for 11 days. And while I was there, I had time to think.
Dolly's mother taking care of Trinity was also beneficial for Dolly's relationship with Ricky, as how she describes his behavior indicates that he was potentially a feeder, something all too common on the show.
He killed her soul, he killed her spirit. And he kept making these comments to my wife and I that all he wanted to do was just feed her fried foods and watch her getting bigger.
It definitely seems like Dolly dodged a bullet in leaving Ricky. However, her weight gain still continued despite leaving the abusive relationship. On a trip to the grocery store, we definitely see where Dolly's bad habits lie, picking the unhealthiest items that she can find. It really seems like Dolly just indulges in whatever she wants, whenever she wants, not considering the nutritional contents of her food at all.
It's my favorite. It is? Yeah. You can put in this cart.
Oh my God, Dolly.
But her addiction to food goes beyond the taste of it. For Dolly, it's her entire life and a deep source of happiness for her.
Food addiction is sad if you really think about it, because that's been like a best friend most of her life. It doesn't talk back. All it does is soothe her.
It's a sickly cycle. Dolly indulges and eats whatever she wants, never denying herself anything. But then she starts to feel bad and guilty about what she's done. She looks in the mirror and hates what she's done to herself, and then needs to feel better. So she starts to eat, and the cycle begins all over again. It's an unending pain for Dolly, as she thinks that she's powerless to stop it. But in reality, she just has no motivation or reason to. Her friend Cheyenne is also a bit of an enemy for Dolly as much as a friend, as she's also dangerously overweight herself, indulging in the same overeating that Dolly does. The pair bring out the worst in each other, as they both have the same goals, which is to just eat as much food as is humanly possible. Dolly doesn't have to feel ashamed about her eating habits in front of Cheyenne, as she is doing the same thing too. They both encourage each other to eat whatever they want, leading them both down a dangerous path that will seriously affect their health, even more than it is already affecting Dolly. Despite all this, Dolly is set to see Dr. Now, and she's in for a rude awakening concerning her strange behavior. As you'd expect, Dolly complains the entire journey down to Houston. The folds in her skin have caused a painful rash, and the uncomfortable car ride has only made it worse. Stepping on the scales at Dr. Now's office, the figure reads 593 pounds, a whopping 40 pounds heavier than Dolly was expecting. And she has the gall to ask, how did that happen? As if it's unclear. In my opinion, it was the years of 10,000 calories a day that did it, but we'll find the doctor's opinion soon. Devastated, Dolly breaks down in tears, denying the possibility of it altogether.
I gained that much. So that makes no sense. That's impossible unless my skill at home must be wrong then.
I think this just shows how uneducated a lot of people are about the calories that they're eating, and I think they genuinely just don't have a clue how many calories are in the meals that they're making. They know it's bad, but maybe they just don't know how bad it is. With so many stars, they say they're actually undereating, or they're not eating that much, when the average person can look at their meal and know there's got to be at least 2,000 calories in that alone. Dolly's BMI is also 108. For a woman of the same height as Dolly, 5'2", a healthy BMI should be between 18.5 and 25, making her BMI 6 times higher than the average. But Dr. Now wants to change this for Dolly, giving her strict instructions to not buy any more sweet treats and eat in a strict calorie deficit. Doing this properly, Dolly should easily lose 60 pounds in the first 2 months. Once completed, Dolly will qualify for Dr. Now's famous weight loss program. Starting her weight loss journey at home, Dolly shows promise in the beginning, sticking to the exercises Dr. Now has instructed her to do so.
There's upper body that I have to do and lower body too. And I'm supposed to do them twice a day. So Cheyenne has been there a lot and she's kind of like my trainer.
It's clear to see the impact her weight has had on her when Dolly is breathless just after completing a few exercises, movements most people will make around the house without even thinking about it. So the exercise is going well, but what about the dieting? It seems like Dolly isn't really a fan of it.
One thing that is not cool is that my mom got rid of all the junk food right when we got back from seeing the doctor.
You'd think Dolly would be grateful for Stacy's help, but she clearly isn't at all. Dolly clearly wanted to ease into the diet, just lowering her sweet treat intake gradually, but now this isn't possible, and Dolly is annoyed about it. To make matters worse, you're not going to believe what Dolly says next.
I don't feel like these are changes that I can make for the rest of my life, but I do feel like I can do it for the short term, if it's just to get approved.
How on earth does this even make sense? She wants to qualify for the weight loss program, but doesn't want to continue with the lifestyle choices that will inevitably make her life better. It really seems like Dolly wants to have her cake and eat it too.
And when I go back to see Dr. Now for my next appointment, I really hope I get approved for weight loss surgery, so I don't have to do this first part for too long.
Dolly clearly thinks that the answer to all of her problems is weight loss surgery. She thinks it's a magic pill that you can swallow and make all of the weight fall off without her having to lift a finger. Now, it's going to be a big wake-up call for Dolly once Dr. Now finds out what her actual motivation is. Stepping onto the scales for the second time 2 months later, Dolly weighs 576 pounds, a 17-pound drop since her last visit. And yet again, Dolly can't understand why she hasn't lost any weight, and we're about to find out why.
I'm having a hard time with my portion control.
Essentially, you made what changes to...
I stopped with the bread and the pastas and the rice and all the sugary stuff.
Okay.
No sodas, no juices.
Mom, how are you doing with her eating habit?
It's just portion control. I'll put a portion on her plate, and then later on she'll go back for more.
It simply isn't good enough to stop eating sweet treats if Dolly keeps eating several servings of the same meal. Again, Dolly doesn't really understand how many calories is in the food she's eating. She isn't ready to give it another go either, wanting that quick fix still.
Do you have like something that I could go to instead of going home that could help me with my temptations and all this, and to help me lose more weight?
Well, why do you need somebody else to do that? You have to start taking responsibility for yourself and do some stuff for yourself. Not depend on people to do everything for you. And that is the issue that you need to work on it.
But Dr. Now isn't having any of this, giving it to Dolly straight. She can't expect to have someone lose the weight for her. She needs to learn to do it on her own. Because what's the point of having weight loss surgery if you can't continue the treatment on your own? 2 weeks later and things are still going downhill for Dolly. The tension between her and Stacy grows as her mother keeps questioning her eating habits, frustrating Dolly. Stacy just wants what's best for Dolly, and in my opinion, she isn't doing anything wrong. She's just trying to motivate her daughter in the only way she knows how to. If she doesn't say anything to Dolly, it's like that she won't change at all and will probably only get worse. Now, this situation explodes and Dolly and Stacy end up in a huge argument. Dolly storms out and ends up staying in a homeless shelter overnight. Now, in an unlikely turn of events, Dolly makes a decision to move back in with her ex-husband, the man who is abusive and a feeder. Is this really the best course of action for Dolly, to move in with someone who loved to feed her when she's on a weight loss journey? Not to mention, Dolly's 3-year-old daughter lives with Stacy. So Why wouldn't your first priority to be to live as close as possible to your child? It's obvious that the only reason Dolly decided to move back in with Ricky is so she could eat what she wanted when she wanted, without being judged. But encouraged is probably the better term here. After Dolly had been back with Ricky for just a couple of weeks, his behaviour had become intolerable for her again. Instead, she moved in with a man called Philip, someone who she'd met while staying at the homeless shelter. Philip doesn't have his own house, so they stay at a hotel together that he pays for. The relationship goes so well that Philip even proposes to Dolly, and she says yes, when they've only been dating for a few weeks, but make of that what you will. While staying here, Dolly thinks she's made good progress, but it's unlikely she has, given that there's no kitchen in the hotel room, so you can probably imagine what they've been eating. And Dolly's upcoming appointment with Dr. Now is incredibly important, as this is her final chance to qualify for weight loss surgery. At Dr. Now's office with her new fiancé, Dolly steps onto the scales again. 566 pounds, a 10-pound drop from her previous appointment 2 months prior. It's not the 60-pound drop Dr. Now asked for, and it's not even close. Dr. Now is concerned with Dolly's living conditions when he notices that Stacey hasn't attended the appointment with her.
Only lost 10 pounds in 3 months. So that means you have only been losing 3 to 4 pounds a month. You're still eating around 5,000 calories a day. So I'm worried about that and your overall situation and a lot of things.
It's clear that Dolly's choices are irrational, immature, and pretty idiotic. She abandoned her child to live with a man she met in a homeless shelter, becoming his fiancé in mere weeks, living in a hotel without a job, and her lifestyle is paid for by his disability allowance. Dr. Now decides that Dolly isn't mentally ready to go ahead with the weight loss surgery, as if this wasn't obvious earlier, and refers her to a specialized psychologist for further treatment. Dr. Now also understands, like we do, that Stacey was a real asset to Dolly and genuinely attempted to help her weight loss, not to mention that she is also the caregiver to Trinity, her daughter. In order to progress with the treatment, Dolly needs to rebuild her relationship with her mother, and Dr. Now gives her another chance to lose 60 pounds in the next 2 months. At the psychologist's appointment, Dolly becomes deeply emotional and upset, revealing that she feels completely worthless because of her relationship with her father. Because he treated her so badly, she has continuously picked up abusive men that are bad for her, which makes her feel even worse about herself. The psychologist also points out that Dolly doesn't do much for herself, completely relying on the support from others, especially her mother. Dolly decides to change her ways after this appointment, trying to become more independent by doing her own laundry and searching for her own apartment, eventually finding one for her and Philip. Now, it's a house share that honestly looks like a drug den. Their bedroom only has 2 mattresses on the floor, and the state of the house is in complete disarray, which is hardly a better option than staying with her mother. But luckily, this stint didn't last long, as the pair got kicked out and had to go back to their hotel. 8 months since the start of her treatment, Dolly steps on the scales for one final time in this episode. If she'd followed Dr. Now's treatment, she would be down 150 pounds by now, and that's without surgery. Now, if you're in the small minority of people who are subscribed to my channel and watch my videos, you might guess what's about to happen. And if you're not subscribed, please make sure you do now, as it's a massive help. Now, the figure on the scale reads 552 pounds, which is a total weight loss of 40 pounds. Dolly is initially hopeful with this figure, but is quickly shot down by Dr. Now, as he reveals the truth. That Dolly surrounds herself with people who are bad for her because it makes her life easier, because she can eat whatever she wants when she's around them. The best person for Dolly to be around, no matter how much she dislikes her, is her mother, Stacey.
I was told that I'm too controlling. I've encouraged her since she moved in with me to not overeat and to not eat what she shouldn't and to focus on herself, emotionally, physically, all aspects of herself. And she promised that she would do so.
That's what I should have done.
And she did not. She has moved in and out of my home, in and out on her 3.5-year-old daughter, which is not good for the child, several times. And I told her, no uncertain, that if she did this again, that's it. And I am not going to take back in.
But Dolly is too blind to see that, too concerned with having an easy life than making good decisions, as Dr. Now points out.
So, what is your plan now? So it seems like you cannot take responsibility for yourself, and you expect everybody else to do everything for you. and you don't have to make any decision and be responsible for anything.
Dolly mistreats everyone around her, demanding that they take care of her because she cannot do it herself. She's very mentally immature, not taking responsibility for anything. She has a lot to learn and a long way to go if she ever wants to be considered for the weight loss program again. She has no intention to get her life together and take responsibility for her actions. Dolly needs to urgently take control of her life before it's too late and she is consumed by her health issues. She's just 25 years old and has a long life ahead of her, but only if she makes a drastic change, and from what we've seen before, it's honestly unlikely that she will. Someone else who refused to take action was Lacey Buckingham, the most manipulative star to ever feature on the show, and was one of the most disgusting too. If you want to see her story, click the video which is on your screen now, and I'll see you in the next one.